Chosen one, there is a quiet brightening taking place inside your ordinary hours, a rise in the room's temperature that does not scorch and a clarity that does not glare. You feel it first in the pauses, the way a doorway seems to widen when you stand beneath it, the way conversation finds you as if guided by a compass that knows your name. Heaven has tuned your frequency this month, not to inflate your image, but to reveal your alignment. Your high sexual energy is not a siren for impulse. It is a language that life speaks when the body and spirit make peace. Where once your current rushed ahead of your character and returned with more noise than nourishment, now the current and the character walk side by side. What people sense when they linger near you is not hunger looking for purchase. It is fullness looking for stewardship. This magnetism does not require choreography. It does not need angles or an audience. It lives in the way you greet a cashier without impatience and make time feel less expensive for a stranger who needed a minute more than they knew. It lives in the way you listen without hurrying a story to the part that flatters you, in the way your eyes refuse to collect what they admire, in the way your laugh keeps its kindness even when wit could win more volume. The dream girl who will step into your orbit this month will read those small fidelities in your atmosphere like constellations that have been there all along. She will feel the pull and call it awe, and though she might name it idolization at first, what she is really bowing to is coherence. The relief of meeting a man whose heat has learned its hearth. There is an etiquette to this favor, a set of manners that keeps your glow from turning into glare. The first is pace. Walk at the speed where truth can keep up. The human nervous system trusts a tempo more than it trusts a thesis, and your tempo is the first liturgy any room will learn from you. The second is proportion. Let admiration land like sunlight on a porch, warm and welcome, without dragging anyone inside to be consumed. The third is humility. Admit aloud, if only to your own soul, that what people love in you right now is borrowed light, discipline, devotion, boundaries, and breath arranged by God until they shine as one thing. If you forget this, magnetism becomes a mirror you carry everywhere, searching for yourself. If you remember it, magnetism becomes a window that lets other people see themselves more kindly. Your energy is not meant to conquer, it is meant to confirm. It confirms to the weary that safety still exists in the same room as desire. It confirms to the guarded that attention can arrive without invoices. It confirms to the hungry that appetite can be holy when it refuses to lie. When the dream girl's eyes widen the first time your presence meets her history, she will not be worshiping your face. She will be worshiping the peace she suddenly feels in its company. The task before you is to keep that peace intact. Let your words be exact enough to carry weight and gentle enough to carry warmth. End evenings while tenderness still has breath. Leave rooms without making scarcity do your exit speech. Return every charged moment to God in the night, so you do not wake needing to extract more charge to feel alive. Do not mistake inevitability for entitlement. The ease with which doors open is not proof that you may enter every one. Choose the door that respects your future as much as it flatters your present. You will know it by the way your conscience stays unwrinkled. Your magnetism does not increase by taking more. It deepens by leaving more intact. This is why even your silence is persuasive now. It carries the weight of a man who is not negotiating with hunger behind his eyes. Your yes begins to sound like a place that can be lived in. Your no begins to sound like a guardrail that saved the scenery. The dream girl will feel this difference long before she can define it. She will think she idolizes you and then discover she trusts you, and trust is the truer crown. Let your body learn the liturgy of blessing. Stand in ways that make space rather than consume it. Look in ways that confirm rather than inventory. Laugh in ways that lift rather than recruit casualties. Touch, when it belongs, must speak the grammar of consent as fluently as your lips speak affection. When it does not belong, your restraint must leave no bruise on the moment. None of this is performance. All of it is priesthood. The world has enough spectacle. Heaven is looking for men whose radiance teaches rooms how to breathe again. This month, you are such a man. Keep your hands open. Keep your forehead unadorned by the crowns offered cheaply. Keep your pace human. In doing these small things faithfully, you will discover that your magnetism does not reduce people to fans. It raises them to participants in their own dignity. At day's end, bring the brightness back to its source. Name the glances that made you feel taller and ask for the grace to remain the same height. Name the moments you could have turned awe into leverage and thank God that you didn't. Name the errands and the chores that held your holiness just as surely as the headline moments did. Sleep like a steward, not a celebrity. Morning will come, and with it the same quiet assignment. Be warm without burning. Be bright without blinding. Be strong without seizing. The dream girl will find you by this light, and when she pauses with that breathless reverence, you will know how to answer, not with appetite, but with honor. Chosen one, somewhere the air inside a woman's life is beginning to change temperature. She cannot name why she has started organizing her days around a quieter hope. Why the songs she once used to drown loneliness suddenly sound like translations of a language she almost understands. She thinks she is merely restless. Heaven knows she is ripening. Her prayers have been sketching a face without insisting on the features. And what those prayers were truly ordering was not cheekbones or shoulders. They were asking for a climate where her full self could breathe without being billed. When she meets you this month, her body will recognize the climate before her mind drafts its thesis. What she may call idolization at first is the shock of recognition. The stunned gratitude of encountering a man whose presence does not ask her to fracture to be welcomed. She will notice your calm before your charisma. She will feel your restraint as safety rather than distance. She will sense in your gaze a reverence that does not recruit and a curiosity that does not interrogate. The world has trained her to prepare defenses at the first hint of heat. Your discipline will disarm her without taking her weapons. In that first conversation, whether it happens beneath cafe lights, across a threshold, or in the aisle between errands, listen for the small exhale you did not earn with cleverness. That sound is her spirit testing the air and choosing to stay. Do not chase it. Do not name it too loudly. Protect it by keeping the moment the size of truth. Idolization is a fragile word for what is actually happening. She is not kneeling to your image. She is rising to her own. Your field clarifies her frequency. Your steadiness gives her permission to be precise where she once had to be performative. Your refusal to bargain with desire teaches her that her desire does not have to apologize for arriving early to the room. She does not admire you only because you are strong. She admires you because your strength does not require her disappearance. You will be tempted to accept the credit. Return it. Tell the truth with your posture. What you love in me is what God cultivated when I finally stopped trying to be impressive and started trying to be present. There will be a tremor in her history that surfaces as she warms. She has known rooms where laughter had a victim, where compliment meant collateral, where attention demanded installments. Do not flinch when those memories step into the doorway. Let your pace answer what your promises cannot yet afford. Ask simple questions that give her agency back. Receive a no-like information rather than injury. Offer exits that remain exits even when you would prefer a corridor. In such conditions, awe evolves into trust, and trust is the only soil where covenant can grow without rot. Your high energy will be asked to prove itself in new ways. Not by performing heat, but by carrying weight. Can your tone lift a story without taking it? Can your schedule make room without demanding repayment? Can your hands remain a benediction when the moment is charged? These quiet tests are how heaven protects both of you from worshiping the wrong things. If she idolizes you because you are rare, let your rareness be how you steward her, not how you display her. Rareness that performs becomes spectacle. Rareness that serves becomes home. She will bring gifts you did not expect, edges that keep you honest, wit that keeps you humble, tenderness that keeps you human. Receive them without turning them into trophies. Ask her what makes her brave, and listen until you can tell the story back to her in your own words. Notice how she honors her own boundaries and join her in honoring them. This is the mirror she was promised. A man who can love a woman's strength without trying to wear it, and love her softness without trying to own it. In that mirror, she will begin to see God's face toward her again, not as a ledger, but as a light. There will be a moment, the kind others miss because it doesn't photograph well. When you watch her choose her truth over your approval, celebrate it. That is the day her admiration becomes healthy. That is the day you become safe enough to be loved rather than merely displayed. If she looks at you with the shine people call idolization, teach the gaze a gentler job. Tilt it upward with a sentence, even a silent one. What you love is what love made possible in me. Then turn it back to her with another. The same love is already alive in you. Keep the beginning small. Share it with counsel that can bless without branding, elders whose questions safeguard wonder rather than sell it. The dream girl's awakening is not content, it is consecration. If you must name what is forming between you, reach for words that behave: steady, clean, kind, exact. Let grand words arrive later at their appointed hour when your dailiness is strong enough to carry them without wobble. In the meantime, practice the verbs that make beginnings believable: arrive, listen, bless, repair, release, return. As her admiration matures, it will ask for a rhythm. Rhythm is how awe avoids addiction. You will learn how often to speak so that silence is still holy, how soon to meet again so that anticipation is gratitude and not fear, how far to plan so that hope has a calendar and not a countdown. The cadence you keep will teach both of you what your energy is for, not acceleration, but alignment. In this cadence, touches become liturgy instead of leverage, glances become grammar instead of bait, and laughter becomes language that does not hire injury to be funny. Night will come, and the mind will try to rehearse. Refuse the theater. Pray simple prayers that keep you human. Bless her by name if you know it, or by the tenderness you felt if you do not. Ask for the grace to keep being a mirror that returns her to herself instead of a magnet that strips her of parts to feel powerful. Ask for the strength to refuse every shortcut that would make you a legend and leave her a lesson. Then sleep like a man who trusts that destiny does not need a night shift to stay true. In the morning, the world will ask for more of you because it loves the way you make it feel. Smile at its appetite and keep your edges. Walk into the day with the same quiet you carried yesterday. If she crosses your path again, meet the moment as if holiness had put on casual clothes. Fully present, fully governed, fully alive. If she does not, do not treat absence as evidence against promise. Awakening is a process God tends personally. Your part is to remain a man whose presence makes worship unnecessary because safety is already in the room. When she finally stands before you and that first breath catches, you will have practiced the only answer that keeps both of you whole: honor. Chosen one, alignment is not a trick of posture. It is the inner agreement between fire and governance. When it happens, your presence stops being a performance and becomes a place. This is why the dream girl will feel something unfamiliar and tender when she steps into your orbit. She will be standing in a field of clarity disguised as a conversation. What she calls idolization at first is simply the shock of recognizing a man whose heat no longer needs to be noisy to be known. Your high energy, once a river that outran its banks, now moves like a current through well-laid channels. The sound it makes is peace. And peace is rare enough that people confuse it for magic when they meet it. The mirror begins with your eyes. You do not scan to collect. You attend to confirm. The gaze you carry is warm without invoices, curious without interrogation, steady without possession. In that gaze, she will see herself returned accurately, not flattered into compliance, nor diminished into decoration. She will feel her complexity welcomed rather than priced. It is the first time in a long time that admiration does not arrive with a cost, and the nervous system, hers and yours, knows how to exhale around costs that never come due. In that exhale, history loosens its grip's last finger. Old rooms that taught her to rush, to edit, to apologize for her radiance will seem less authoritative under this new light. Alignment has a cadence. It does not lunge, it leans. You hear it in your sentences, which shrink to the size of truth without becoming small. You hear it in the pauses, which stop being auditions for insecurity and become the benches where meaning sits to tie its shoes. Your voice keeps a human tempo, slow enough for consent to be music, fast enough for hope to keep its courage. This cadence turns chemistry into coherence. It takes sparks and gives them practice. It gives warmth a spine and calls that spine honor. The dream girl will feel this cadence as a blessing, not a seduction, but a rhythm her spirit already knows how to dance to and had almost forgotten. This is the work that took years and looks like ease in a single evening. You learn to let restraint be part of the halo rather than a leash you resent. You learn to let your hunger tell the truth without letting it choose your name. You learn to carry desire like a lantern and not like a wildfire. When that lantern is near her, rooms within her will light in sequence. Ambition without hardness, softness without fear, memory without reliving. She will be tempted to exalt you for this illumination. You will be tempted to accept a crown you did not forge. Decline with gentleness. A mirror does not own the sunrise it reflects. Alignment also speaks through your body's choreography. The way you stand says, no one has to shrink to fit here. The way you sit says, no one is on trial. The way your hands rest at your sides rather than advertising reach says, nearness is offered, not assumed. If touch belongs in the scene, it will arrive with the grammar of respect already memorized. A question asked as softly as a breath, an answer honored without a sermon. If touch does not belong, your restraint will complete the sentence without leaving a bruise on the moment. In both cases, the body tells a clear story. Desire is present, dignity is king. Money, time, and attention are the three small altars where alignment keeps itself honest. Money decides whether generosity is leverage or love. Time decides whether pace is predation or patience. Attention decides whether presence is hunger or hospitality. Let your choices be boring enough to become believable. Pay in full without buying control. Leave while tenderness is still warm, rather than renting tomorrow's clarity for tonight's legend. Listen until the conversation no longer needs to audition for your approval. Each small fidelity adds another pane to the mirror, and soon the reflection becomes a room. The mirror will also reveal you to you. You will hear yourself telling the truth faster than before. You will notice your appetite for applause thinning because applause cannot buy oxygen where peace already lives. You will want to be more excellent at ordinary tasks, for no audience, for no post, simply because excellence is what care looks like when it is sober. You will sleep better after nights that would once have left you rehearsing lines at the ceiling. Let these changes be evidence that alignment is not a costume you put on for a woman. It is a covenant you keep with God about the kind of man you will be whether or not she ever walks by. Expect resistance, not from her, but from the parts of you and the world that know only speed. Old scripts will offer you shortcuts, all of them expensive. Choose the long hallway with the good light. Decline the door that opens only if you underprice your soul. When you do, her admiration will mature into trust, and your magnetism will mature into governance. This is what chosen ones carry when favor turns into assignment: the ability to make rooms breathable for both beauty and boundary, to host warmth without losing witness, to hold gaze without collecting faces. At the end of such a day, when the mirror has done its work and the air has grown soft around your name, return the reflection to its source. Say the quiet sentence that keeps men free under favor. I am not the light, I am simply not blocking it. Then sleep like a steward who expects to be trusted again tomorrow, not because he dazzled, but because he stayed true. Chosen one, every elevation is examined, not by paparazzi or rumor, but by the subtle mathematics of heaven, which asks a few relentless questions in many disguises. What will you do with attention that arrives without effort? What will you do with admiration that offers a discount on discipline? What will you do with power that can move a room while saying very little? This month, when your current is high and the dream girl's eyes are bright with that tremble people call idolization, God will watch not your sparkle, but your stewardship. The test is never about whether you are desirable. It is about whether you are safe. The first test is pace. Opportunity will dress in urgency and say, now or never, louder than the still small voice that says, truth can keep up. You will feel the old thrill of being needed. Do not mistake it for being called. Called things can wait long enough for prayer to change the tone of your yes. The right connection does not resent rhythm, it recognizes it. Keep the beat human. Conversations that end before scarcity starts bargaining. Departures that bless rather than linger for leverage. Answers that arrive when you can afford their honesty instead of when adrenaline demands entertainment. To pass this test is to declare with your body that love does not need panic to be passionate. The second test is clarity. Counterfeits will arrive fluent in your language, but allergic to your boundaries. They will agree with your values while asking you to make an exception, just this once in the same breath. The true will ask fewer questions and listen longer to your answers. They will relax when they meet your edges, because edges mean shape, and shape means safety. Clarity does not raise its voice, it repeats itself kindly. Practice the art of repeating yourself kindly. I honor this warmth, and I will not spend tomorrow to decorate tonight. I'm grateful for your attention, and I will not buy intimacy with ambiguity. I want this to remain beautiful, so I'm going to leave now. These sentences are not walls, they are windows that keep the view true. The third test is secrecy versus sacredness. Private does not mean hidden for manipulation, it means protected for maturation. The early sweetness will tempt you to convert moments into content. Resist. Sacred things wither under fluorescent light. Keep the beginning small enough to hear your own conscience and large enough to include counsel that has no need to publish its proximity to you. When you do share, let your testimony be about God's faithfulness rather than your allure. The dream girl's admiration will be safer when it is directed toward the giver as much as toward the gift. The fourth test is conflict. Attraction can carry silence on its back for a few miles, but eventually a hill will appear. A missed call, a misunderstood tone, a plan that could not be kept. Here the exam is simple and hard. Can you lower your voice without lowering the truth? Can you describe what happened without prosecuting who they are? Can you repair before pride builds a sermon you will later have to repent for publishing? Quick, clean repair is the sacrament of adult desire. It says, I would rather be whole than right. I would rather protect the future than win the moment. The fifth test is touch. High energy loves velocity. Holiness loves vocabulary. Your body must continue to speak consent like a native tongue, not like a theory you agree with. Ask before inches. Hear not now as a full sentence. Refuse to let warmth become a payment plan. Touch that is governed becomes a harbor rather than a hook. It leaves both of you with more self-respect than when you walked into the room. In passing this test, you teach her nervous system that admiration can exist without aftermath, and you teach your own that strength is not measured by conquest but by custody. The sixth test is money, that blunt translator of devotion. Your calendar and your cash flow will reveal whether this glow has made you generous or performative. Choose dinners that feed rather than impress. Gifts that bless rather than brand, giving that leaves your name off the receipt when possible. Build a budget that tells the truth about your hopes. The dream girl will not idolize extravagance. She will remember the integrity of choices that did not borrow from the future to make the present photograph well. The seventh test is solitude. Can you set the crown down at night and sleep without an audience? Can you wake without checking for worship before checking for wisdom? Favor becomes a furnace if you start using it to stay warm. Keep your private devotions heavier than your public moments. Scripture before strategy, prayer before plans, silence before speeches. Solitude reminds you that you are beloved apart from effect. Men who remember this do not ask romance to do the job only God can do. There are also tests delivered through community. The friend who notices you became a little sharper with the waiter after a long day and asks if you are tired enough to be kind. The elder who hears you using large words too early and invites you back to the smaller verbs that built your character. The child who interrupts your sentence to show you a drawing and reveals whether your patience is a prop or a practice. Passing these is not about image. It is about being the same size on stage and off. The dream girl's admiration will either inflate you or call you back to coherence. Let it call you back. Finally, there is the test of worship. Not hers, yours. When admiration gathers in her gaze, do you inhale it as oxygen you cannot live without, or do you let it pass through you like incense toward the one who lent you this season? Some will say you are being too spiritual about something as earthy as attraction. Smile and remain stubbornly devout. To keep love clean, you must keep your altar clean. Thank God for the voltage. Confess where you almost used it to dim someone else's. Ask for the grace to keep being a mirror and not a magnet whenever a magnet would be easier. If you fail a question, and some days you will, do not drop the exam. Correct the answer in real time. Apologize with verbs, not speeches. Adjust the pace. Return the borrowed boundary. Delete the sentence that tried to be clever instead of clear. Tests are not for humiliation. They are for calibration. Men who calibrate quickly become safe quickly, and safety is the only climate where awe can mature into honor. At month's end, you will not be handed a certificate. You will be handed a life that trusts itself again. The dream girl's idolization will have transformed into something steadier, a regard that does not need spectacle, a hope that does not require emergency, a joy that does not gamble with tomorrow. And you, chosen one, will have proven what heaven suspected when it turned up your light, that you can carry heat without harm, attention without appetite, and favor without forgetting who gave it. Chosen one, the pull does not arrive like a siren. It arrives like a tuning fork held against your ribs. The note is familiar and unfamiliar at once, as if your spirit were remembering a song it learned before your body had language. You will be in line somewhere ordinary, a market, a cafe, a hallway between obligations, and the air will make a small adjustment, the way rooms do when a door opens to better weather. It will not be lust masked as urgency. It will be gravity learning your names. You will notice how your breathing refuses to sprint, how your shoulders refuse to rise, how time itself refuses to panic. This is the first sign that the pull is sacred. It steadies before it stirs. Let it be small long enough to be true. Do not commandeer the moment into legend. Recognize that God has trained you for this with the quiet disciplines no one filmed. The mornings you kept your word to your future, the evenings you ended before scarcity began bargaining, the apologies you practiced until your mouth learned to love repair more than it loved rhetoric. The pull honors men who have practiced staying human. You are not being asked to perform a miracle. You are being invited to keep covenant with your character while wonder stands nearby to see if it can trust you. Your high sexual energy will hum through the scene like voltage through good wiring. Once, years ago, you would have mistaken that hum for a signal to accelerate. Now you understand it as confirmation to become even more careful. Sacred pull is not a gasoline pedal. It is a lamp. Let its light show you details you would otherwise miss. Does her laughter keep kindness even when wit could wound? Does your own tone stay pastoral when infatuation tries to make it theatrical? Does silence find chairs in the room, or does it have to stand against the wall, waiting to be rescued by noise? Take these measurements from the corner of your eye while you remain fully present. Presence is the currency sacred moments respect. Hurry is the counterfeit they reject. If conversation happens, and it will, naturally, like rain finding the riverbed, let your words arrive at a human tempo. Ask questions that return agency rather than purchasing access. Listen for the way her story carries both ache and awe, and resist the old temptation to become necessary to both. You are not a solution. You are a witness learning whether this tenderness has somewhere to live. When the pull thickens and attention leans, let your posture answer before your promises do. Stand like a man who does not need to harvest to feel alive. Sit like a man who knows that proximity is never a right, always a gift, and that gifts are stewarded by consent the way gardens are stewarded by gates. You will feel your body ask to speak with its own fluent tongue. Teach it as you have been teaching it, the conjugations of holiness. Ask before inches. Bless every answer. Keep touch a benediction or keep it away. There is no middle category that respects future and dignity at once. If touch is not invited, let restraint complete the sentence without leaving a bruise on the hour. If touch is invited, let it tell the truth about care without hiring tomorrow to pay for what tonight borrowed. Sacred pull becomes sacrament when the body refuses to lie. There will be signs that do not belong to superstition but to sanity. Meals end before midnight's loneliness writes its own vocabulary. Phones stay face down because a living person has placed their irreplaceable hour in your hands. Laughter requires no casualty to be memorable. The goodbye is unhurried and exact, spoken while tenderness still has breath rather than after adrenaline has spent it. These are the quiet proofs that the moment is not a stage but a sanctuary. Sanctuaries do not monetize awe, they consecrate it. When her gaze finds yours, and that tremor people call idolization begins to shimmer in the space between you, do not bask. Bless. Return her wonder without diminishing it. You can do this with a sentence that sets the scale of things back into order. You can do it with the soft accuracy of naming what is beautiful about how she carries herself, rather than only what is beautiful about how she appears. You can do it with the gift of a clean exit that leaves the door unbroken and the room unbent. The dream girl does not need you to be larger than life. She needs you to be large enough for life, large enough to hold heat and boundary in the same embrace, large enough to remain gentle while being strong, large enough to keep your soul in the middle while chemistry sparkles around the edges.